Welcome to the GuthrieAmerica Podcast. We sit down with the amazing people who do life in our community because we believe every story should be told. I'm your host, Hetty Coleman. Today I'm sitting down with Rosie Hamilton. Before we jump into this conversation with Rosie, would you please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast and leave a review? It would mean the world to me. This episode is brought to you by Paradigm Shift. Paradigm Shift works with educational groups, corporate teams all over the country to unlock every individual's leadership potential through curriculum and team building and so much more. Paradigm Shift believes in learning leadership through experiential learning. There's something special about the act of doing rather than just listening. We want to show you the power of connection through Paradigm Shift. Visit ps.company. You heard that right. ps.company, not ps.com, to explore topics, workshops, and curriculums. Let's create positive change together. And I want to vouch for Paradigm Shift. I've done some work with them in schools and in corporate settings. They are dynamite. Go check them out. ps.company. This episode is brought to you by Triolgy. Triolgy is an independent employee benefits consulting firm. They specialize in custom benefit solutions for employers and do not believe that one size fits all. Their passion is helping employers create benefit packages that attract and retain top talent in their field. Education is the way to employees understanding and getting the most out of their employee benefits. I just want to tell you, you want to connect with Maggie and her team. They are doing a phenomenal job. Rosie, how are you doing today?
Great.
Okay, so Rosie, say your maiden name, last name. I don't think I've ever been able to say that.
Most people can't. Stepanek.
Who walks around with the last name Stepanek and expect people to? What were some? What would people call you?
Stepanek.
Stepanek.
All the things. It's Czechoslovakian.
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm. Well, my grandpa is diehard. It's Bohemian, which is now Czechoslovakia, so it's Czech.
Wow. Now, what made you I don't know the real history behind my last name or whatever. I've never even thought about looking or anything like that. What made you know that information?
Oh, my grandpa's just very proud of our heritage.
Oh, gotcha.
But that's all I know, is that's where we came from. I don't know anything else.
Oh, you don't know anything else?
It's no, he's just very proud of it.
You said that as though I know everything about this last name, and no.
No, but more recently, Jason has been looking into family history trees and doing stuff on Ancestry.com, and so he started to lay out my family tree with information from talking to my dad and the little that I know, and just mapping out to see how far back we came, when we came here, and we all gravitated to Minnesota. We didn't go anywhere else. I don't know why we came from Bohemia to Minnesota.
No clue.
No, but we did.
Huh. And then you grew up in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And you lived there until what age?
25?
25?
25? 24? 25.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And
20s.
What is something for somebody who's never been to Minnesota like myself, what's the one thing I should understand about Minnesota?
It's very cold.
Yeah. But during the summer, though, it's probably perfect.
Perfect. And the farther north you go, it's even more perfect. Unlike Oklahoma, the temperature fluctuates. At nighttime, it's cooler, and the daytime, it's warmer. Where here, it's, I don't know, unhealthy all the time.
Yeah, in some way, shape, or other, either too cold, too hot, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Now, coming from Minnesota, you come to GuthrieAmerica. Had you ever heard of Guthrie before? However, you found out about Guthrie. Tell me how you found out about Guthrie.
Well, my aunt and uncle and my cousins lived here. They moved here from California because my uncle had a job at Tinker, and I can't remember why Guthrie for them. I don't exactly know. I don't know if it was housing or proximity. I have no idea, but they landed here. So I spent quite a few summers all the way junior high through high school visiting here regularly. Hated it. But because I didn't know it. And then And then I moved here, and I never wanted to leave.
And so when did you actually end up moving here?
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
So are you saying that you were coming to Guthrie when you were growing up and you hated it, and then 2016 you move here, and now this is your home since 2016?
Yeah, and I love it. And I shouldn't say hate. That's a strong word. But
Yeah.
it was too hot for me.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how it could be so hot, because we would come here in July and August, and I did not understand that was a possible thing.
And so you just had to adjust to that.
I did.
The heat. Now, you mentioned Jason Hamilton, your husband, who's also an officer here, here in GuthrieAmerica. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I don't know.
You don't have a clue. So
I don't know.
Jason Hamilton, I've never had a ticket in my life. Her husband, Jason Hamilton, a.k.a. you probably know him as the motorcycle cop. Well, he hasn't been on the motorcycle in a long time, though.
He has not. No.
What, is that just because he's getting older in age? Why? Why hasn't he been on the motorcycle?
He's been training a lot of people as of lately, and so he can't. I mean, he doesn't have a sidecar, and you can't put him on the back.
How cool would that be, though, if Jason was riding around with another officer in a sidecar talking to him? Yeah, I'm training.
I would love it. I know he misses it. That's one of his favorite things to do, is be on there. I don't know if it's because he's so sneaky.
Yeah.
But he really loves motorcycles. So I don't know. He just hops on and off depending on what's happening.
For sure. Now, does he own a motorcycle? Did he own a motorcycle before he became the motorcycle cop?
He did. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he was already into motorcycles and riding them and things like that. But yeah, Jason gave me my first ticket. I remember where it was. It was off of Noble, just west of Pine. And he was like, he used to, like, once you pass that stoplight, I feel like he may have been trying to catch people running that stop. I'm not sure. But coming up, and I didn't have on a seatbelt because I was trying to rush my kid to school. I don't think I told him that, like, trying to get out of it anyway, but he didn't even, like,
He didn't care.
He didn't care. I'm only saying this because if people are listening, maybe they'll leave some comments and talk about
They might relate.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. They're definitely going to relate. And so Jason just helps me get some comments.
He is a seatbelt stickler. That should be his new title.
Okay.
Seatbelts.
So this is a thing for him.
It's a thing. Wear your seatbelt because Jason Hamilton's out there.
Which it should be. Like, we should all be wearing our seatbelts, but but it may be just a little bit more of a thing to him than most. Okay. So you moved here in 2016. We just talked about Jason, but I think we should lead into that. Like, you didn't come here for Jason, right? And then you ended up meeting Jason. And what did that look like?
How did I meet him? So one thing about him, we'll sidebar a little bit. I'll tell you a little secret about him. He loves food. He loves other people's food and other people's cooking, so he doesn't have to do it. So the first time I met him, he was actually at my cousin's house because her husband was a police officer in Guthrie, so he was getting his free lunch, getting his free home-cooked meal. And so that's where I first met him. And then I met him again on that same thing, eating lunch at my cousin's house, just another time we visited. And then when I moved here, I took a trip here for 2 weeks. And my cousin was pregnant, and I was just staying at her house.
Okay, now hold it. Your cousin's pregnant. You're staying at her house. But you've been here for 2 weeks. And during those 2 weeks, you saw him at the house eating twice?
No.
Okay.
I met him, like, before 2016
Got you.
at these times. So we hadn't met each other before that. But when I came and I was here in, like, 2016 for 2 weeks, saw him again. And then I was like, hey, it'd be cool to get a ride along. My cousin's husband was just too safe. I wanted some real action, and I didn't get that. Look, he was also too safe, but I asked him to do a ride along. I talked the entire time. He'll tell you that I talked the entire time, and then we just started talking more from there.
Now, I hear that your cousin was boring officer cop. You didn't want to ride along with him, or maybe you did a ride along. You had, and so you knew. And so then you thought, man, maybe Jason, I get a little bit more action if I rode around with him.
Yeah, because I heard he was a scary cop.
It didn't have anything to do with him being cute, or you trying to.
No, he was cute. He is cute.
but at that time,
you were just
really curious about doing a ride along.
Yes.
Okay, so you do a ride along, and then what happens from there?
He's obsessed with me. I don't know what else to tell you. He's obsessed.
You just became his one mission in life was to marry Rosie. That's good. And so when did y'all get married?
2017. And then we had a baby in 2018.
You moved here in 2016, married Jason in 2017, baby 2018. Sounds like you were here for Jason.
Well, I may have like planted here for Jason, but when I first came here, I was coming here to help my cousin.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Man, it's been really awesome when this baby comes. It'd be cool if you would just stay. You don't have to get a job right away. Just help me out with the kids." And I was like, "That sounds great. That sounds like the best thing in the world. Free food. I don't have to pay for where I live. I just get to hang out with my family all the time."
That's cool. So, first job in GuthrieAmerica.
In Guthrie, I worked for Guthrie Public Schools.
Oh, was that your first job? Oh, okay.
When I first got a job here, I worked in the city at MidFirst Bank.
Got you.
It was a great place to work. I was awful at it. Awful. I didn't have the attention to detail I needed in that. And just education is more, it's in my heart. So that was, working for a bank was not me.
Got you. Thinking about your family, how do you think your family would describe the younger Rosie?
Strong-willed.
Really? Were you a very strong-willed kid?
Yes.
Now, I know you're kids. So, well, Jason's kind of strong. Would you describe Jason as strong-willed too?
Yes.
So your kids got a double dose of strong-willedness.
Strong-willed, stubborn. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that your friends would have said one day Rosie would be a teacher?
No.
No. What do you think they would probably imagine you being?
I don't even know. Growing up, I had so many different things. I was always just trying to find something that I liked. I wanted to be a karate instructor. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a singer. Although I'm tone deaf, it would have never worked.
Will you sing for us?
No.
Okay, I just thought
maybe later. It would make your followers go down.
Wait a second. You wanted to be a singer, but you couldn't sing?
I can't sing a note.
But it was one of those things where you saw somebody doing it and you tried inspired by that and then at some point aspired to be that even though you didn't have the talent to do it.
Yeah, I was like, that looks so cool. I want to do that.
Yeah.
But it was never in my plans.
Yeah. So growing up, you want to be these different things, very strong-willed person, get ready to graduate from college, not college, but high school. What did you end up doing? What decision did you make coming out of high school?
Well, my senior year in high school is really when I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, or I wanted to do something with the younger generation. I had a cousin who was born with Down syndrome, and so I fell in love with him, obviously. He's the greatest. He just graduated high school, which makes me feel really old. But I just wanted to learn how to help and make people like my cousin just have a better life and have all the skills that they need. And so I fell in love with that. So after high school, I worked for a center called St. David's Center. It's in Minnesota. And I just did like in-home care with children with developmental disabilities to kind of kickstart to make sure that's what I wanted to do. Started college and took a long break.
Oh, you started college, then you took a long break. So was part of that break when you moved here?
Yes, and before, but yeah.
And before. And so once you came here, did you end up going back to college?
I did, because of the amazing support system I had, which was Jason. He said, "You want to do it? Go do it. We'll figure it out." That's
cool. And was that because you all maybe had a conversation, or did he initiate that, or was it because of your going back or starting your work at the Guthrie Public Schools that kind of started encouraging you to go back?
Kind of all of it. He knew that I wanted to do it, and I just never had, time, resources, all the excuses that I was making. I had it all. I just was making excuses. And so he was just like, why not now? Let's just do it. Go ahead. And I had the amazing support from the school too, to be like, yeah, you should go get it. You should go finish. And then, because that's great. We need teachers.
Yeah. And so when you started going back, once you got there, was it easier to go ahead and start? Like, what were some of the challenges being an adult? Because now you had children, right?
I was pregnant.
Okay.
I was pregnant and then had them. And then, but I was the old lady in the classroom. It was so weird. It felt so weird we would introduce ourselves and talk about things. And I was like, oh, no, that's not me. That's not my life right now.
She's like, I'm so far from that thing. Yeah. But that was probably a good thing for the students to be able to kind of hear it and get a little bit of your story. And because what if one of those students one day didn't finish and dropped out or needed to come back later, now they can see that you can do it. For the people who out there who may be, I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day, older gentleman, meaning like not real old, but in a place now, like, man, I'm thinking about going back and getting my degree. What would you say to that person?
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. I mean, even if I were to never use this degree ever, I would have still wanted to do it as being a mother, to show my kids that you can do it if you want to do it. And it gives me all these opportunities, and I am using it, but it gives me all these opportunities even if I wanted to change or whatever. It was a good experience. I learned a lot. I feel like as humans, we should always be students. And so, I don't know. I just say do it.
What were some of the advantages of going back older?
Maturity. Like a homework assignment. I'm going to do it because I'm paying for this class now. And I financially need to do it and not waste the money or time. And I'm getting older. I don't have that much time. I need to get it done. Yeah. So by the time you finish, did you have both your children by then, or you have stepchildren as well? So so now before you finish, you have both your children plus your steps. So that's 4 that you have some interaction with, right? As a parent, like what was that like, balancing that? And you were working. It was hard. I literally finished the last semester at UCO while I was in labor with my daughter. I was in the hospital bed typing, and my doctor came in and said, you have to stop. And I was like, just hang on. I'm going to finish this. I have to finish this now. And that's when I did it. But it was without the support of my family and even the people that I worked with and worked for, there's no way that I could have done it. It was just a big support system. At work, I could ask different teachers questions about things that I had, or like looking into the future. What does it look like? My administrators were a big help in that, all the way up to the admin office. And so it was nice to have people I could go to and ask questions if I needed help with the homework thing, or what's next with teaching. Like, what do you do? What's next? And so I had people I could go to. And so it was hard being a mom and working full time, but it made it easier having that complete family and that community supporting me. So yeah. Okay, so going back to college, finished that degree. You got a big family now. Living in Guthrie, America. What are some highlights for you over the years living in a community? Because the town that you came from, Minnesota, was it a smaller town? Was it a bigger town? Population-wise, it was about the same, but it's a very different climate it was almost culture shock when I moved here. It's just very different in the way that you see a community. I didn't really know what a community was up there. The same kind of like historical downtown, and kind of the same thing, but I don't know. It was just way different.
Just a different vibe. Was it?
Yeah.
When you talk about different, was it maybe the way that people interact here versus the way that we interact? You would interact there with the people that you live with in the same town, or?
I think that's a big part of it too. My first time here at Walmart, we don't even have a lot of Walmarts. It's Targets up there. My first time here, someone was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I was like, "Do you know? I don't know you. I don't know you. Why are you saying hi to me?" And that's not that nobody does that. People in Minnesota are great and they're nice and it's a great place to live. But it was just different. It felt like when you come to Guthrie, like you're a part of something. It's not just you're not just like a number in the town. You really are a part of something. Yeah. So,
in that you working in the schools too probably helps make it feel a little bit different, because now you're really a part of something that pours back into the community. Do you think that kind of made a difference? And what was it like? What is it like to work in a school and live in a town?
Blue Jay Pride is something that I've never seen before. When we, in the middle of the school day, shut down school to see the homecoming parade, I was like, what is this? But it's so cool to see that, and so cool to see the whole community come together. Like people who have graduated, they're in the parade. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. And so for me as a parent with kids that are just starting this year in the Guthrie public school system and ones that had aged out, like it was cool to see that everybody is involved. Everybody's involved. So.
No, so true. And so the funny thing that you mentioned at homecoming, I just recently did a podcast with a school teacher from Cushion, and she's from Guthrie, and so she and I actually graduated together. But she was like, one of the things she missed about Guthrie was homecoming. She said that Cushion doesn't do homecomings like we do in Guthrie. Did y'all do homecomings like we do them here?
No, we had an assembly, and that was it. Football's not a big thing up there. Okay. It's not. And our football team, sorry, Royals, awful.
They're not good.
No.
Yeah, but I would say this: even when we weren't good,
we
still had a homecoming like we were number one.
Now, come basketball season, you don't go to school because we're going to make the state championship year after year after year. Then it's pretty much like school shut down, and everyone is watching that.
Oh, getting ready for that or whatever that may look like. Because are those games played during the day? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the state games are. Yeah. So, but one day, well, you've had kids graduate, but and so they're part of that. But now you get ready for the class reunions. Are class reunions a big deal? And have you went back? Did you go back for yours?
We've only had one that was scheduled, and it was this past June. But I didn't go back for it because it's not the same thing. Like our class community, and I don't know if it's because although our town was the same size, like my graduating class was a little over 700 something. So maybe it's because there were so many of us, but it's not the same thing. Yeah.
Now I know this about you, talking about GuthrieAmerica and just how all the coolness of it. Now you're a stay-at-home kind of person. Right, but we do have establishments, restaurants, some retail. Are there any stores that let's not use frequent, but it may be a store that stands out to you?
Well, like for shopping, I love Boutique 206. Always have. I used to work there a little bit too.
You did on Sundays. I remember that. You did that for a little bit, didn't you?
I did, yeah. And it was when I was going to school. Before I had the littles, I just had the bigs, and so Faith would come to work with me too, which was great because she helped out and she liked to talk to people more than I do, so it was great. She welcomed people in, but Boutique 206, and then I've recently fell in love with Friends Market Boutique. Faith and I go in there a lot, and they have such cute stuff for eating. Senior Lopez is probably where we frequent the most. Besides fast food.
Were you a Mexican fan before Senior Lopez, or?
Before moving down here, I was not.
Really?
It was Taco Bell was as authentic as it got.
Taco Bell, Senior Lopez. There might be a little bit of difference there, but that was your jam. Was Taco Bell your jam, or are you just saying?
No, really, it was. Yeah.
Really? What was your favorite from Taco Bell?
Just the Supreme Burrito with a soft shell taco, not a hard one, a soft shell taco, and no Pepsi because Pepsi's disgusting. So I would just get a water.
Wait a second. Pepsi's disgusting?
Coke, never Pepsi.
Are you serious? Have you had Pepsi before? Because I feel like you've never, to say that, I feel like you've never had Pepsi.
My stepdad worked for Frito-Lay, which is PepsiCo.
Oh, excuse me.
Disgusting. So it was always in our house.
So is that what? Pepsi's so the sweetness of.
No.
Wow. Okay, she's sorry.
I'm gonna stand firm on that. No, Coke is better.
Coke is better. Okay, so Taco Bell. I just had this conversation earlier today about Taco Bell, but I really like and I rarely ever go there, but the taco shell when it's like a Dorito. Oh my goodness! I think those come with the Supreme. Are those? Have you had those, Mom? No. So I love those. Oh my goodness, those
Michael
are good.
Gets those sometimes.
Oh, does he?
Yes.
Way to go, Michael.
Yeah, and
I haven't seen Michael in a little bit.
Yeah.
Is he off, or is he just working harder?
He's been doing different Army training stuff.
Gotcha.
So he's been in a few different states this summer, and he's gearing up to go to Texas at the end of the summer, which is kind of funny. My stepbrother lives in Texas at this place called Sherwood Forest. It's really great if you like Renaissance stuff. Go visit it.
I think you should take five minutes to talk about your brother and what he does for. Do we say for a living? How do you?
Yeah. Well, he lives there, so
he lives where?
In Sherwood Forest.
He lives in the forest, and
in Sherwood Forest.
Sherwood Forest.
So
but
Robin Hood.
Do people know what Sherwood Forest? Do you know what?
Well, surely you know the Robin Hood story.
The Robin Hood story,
It's literally, it's a Renaissance fair based on the Robin Hood story. And there's Maid Marian and what is King, I don't even know all the characters. I don't get that into it. But he lives there all the time with my sister-in-law and my nephew. And he does like grounds work, security, and build stuff. And it's just a different life. My mom and stepdad go down there to work. They own some games down there. But when they go down there, they dress up. And like you can't get out of character when you're an employee there. So my mom will do like accents. She always sounds like Mrs. Doubtfire when she tries to do it. But basically he lives in fairy tale land.
Wait, what do you mean by they own games?
So they own a Ferris wheel and then this thing called Tubs of Fun.
Your parents do? Mm-hmm. So you can buy games and put them inside Sherwood Forest, or really?
So they bought these from somebody who retired from the life, the Renaissance life. And so they bought them from him, and they run them. And then my stepdad helps do like HR kind of things because that's what he did for Frito-Lay. And then my mom works the front and then runs her game. So we get free rides for life.
Well, I imagine so. You own the rides.
But it's crazy. But Michael's actually going to go down to that same area, which is so weird because there's nothing there but Sherwood Forest. That same area for some military stuff soon. So it's kind of cool because they can connect.
Mom, we have to go to Sherwood Forest. You would have never. My mom is whispering, y'all. Mom, you can talk. Yeah, we need to go to that. Doesn't that sound? Yeah. No, it's always interesting when they start talking about it. I need to go down there just so I can get a real feel for this.
It's like a whole different. It's a different world. It's a different world. And
when did he move? Like when did he move there? When you realized like my brother's moving to be Robin Hood. Like what was that like for you? Was it?
Well, it didn't surprise me, and I was actually glad because before that they had traveled around the United States to different Renaissance festivals. So I was like, oh, now they're planted. I don't care if they're living in fairy tale land. Like they're planted. We can go visit them. It's a space to see them on a regular basis. And then now that I live here, it's only a 6-hour drive. So it's not very far, so you could go.
Yeah, no, we're going.
It's cool.
We need to go do this like ASAP. Is it open year round?
No, it's open in the spring. I should know this.
What are they doing the rest of the year?
So they have camps. They have summer camps. So
to train up and coming
to live in medieval times, like in a big tent, and you eat at a mess hall, like in the castle. There's a castle, and you sword fight, and you you do all the things that you would do in medieval life. It's a kids camp they have, and then they do like this thing called Celtic Fest. I'm not really sure what happens, but it's like an adult thing where they live the Celtic life from medieval times, and people go and camp there and do that. So they have different camps that go around. We visited down there for one Christmas, and Michael actually got to stay in the castle. We stayed in my parents' RV, and my son Michael and my brother Michael both stayed in the castle and said it was cool.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, do they do movies? That's a great point, Mom.
I don't know, but it's like a legitimate castle, and they have like they do weddings. That's very expensive.
Is it really?
I can't believe it. I cannot believe it.
Do you know the price?
Thousands of dollars to get married in the castle, and then I think it's like $1,800 to get married in like the chapel that's outside in the Texas heat in the summertime.
Yeah.
Which is just as bad as here. But it's a beautiful altar and everything. My brother built it, so it's, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really good. Now, what was he like? I know this is I know this conversation is about you, Rosie, but your brother just is, I mean, he's...
My family's pretty interesting.
They are pretty interesting. So when he was younger, like, what was he like? Would you have said, you know what, he's going to do something that's going to be very unique and interesting?
Sure. Well, my stepdad and my mom haven't been together since I was little. But from when I knew my siblings, we're siblings, but when I knew my siblings, yes. In his senior picture, he's got a snake, his pet snake around him. And he's like 7 feet tall. He's a huge character, but he is one of the most like loving people in the world. Like he's just a giant teddy bear that used to wear a snake around his neck.
What kind of snake was around this man's neck? And who let him take the picture like that?
It was his pet. It was his.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. It was, I don't know, a yellow. It was giant and yellow. So I don't know if it was like a boa. Yeah. I didn't touch it. I don't want to touch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get back to you. Okay. Let's get back to your life as a teacher in Guthrie, America. How do you get away from a guy who had a snake in his senior picture and now going back to?
Well, and then my other brother's a banker, and then my sister is, she has a really cool job. She works for an art gallery, and she's an artist herself, and so we're all so different. But my biological brother and I are a banker and teacher, and then we have our free spirits, and our creative ones. Cool. So we like
you
balance
have the banker
each other
in this, and then you have the artsy or kind of creative free thinker kind of. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that is really cool. So okay, talking about you as a teacher, right? So you work in the public schools. You're not a teacher yet, but you're in the schools. You're working as an aide. Is that how you say that? Yeah. As an aide. Start going back to school to finish your degree. Then you finish your degree. What happens?
The pandemic.
Oh, my goodness. The pandemic.
Yeah. So everything shut down, and I was like, what do we do now? What do we do? I have this brand new baby. Is this like all the movies? What is going to happen?
Now, are you still working at the school, like Guthrie Public Schools at this time?
I don't, like right this moment.
No.
At this time. Yes, the pandemic hit.
The pandemic hit.
Yes.
You're in Guthrie Public Schools working, finish your degree.
Mm-hmm.
But so I guess you got to finish out the school year, right?
Well, sort of, because no one knew what was going on. So we just kind of finished. That's just how, and it just ended so sadly. But there's nothing else that we could do. So I was, and then it's actually it was very emotional what happened to transition into the next part.
But before we go into the next part, something very exciting happened. Like one of the things that I know about you and that I had the great opportunity to work with you on was the student council.
One of my favorite things that I did ever.
To work with the students, you put in all this work to get the conference here. That's an annual conference. Mm-hmm. Guthrie was selected to be a part of that.
To host it. To host the whole thing. State.
And then the pandemic happens, I guess, right? That spring, pandemic happens, and then the school.
And then it just fell apart. But those kids, that was one of my favorite things that I did at the junior high. And then Tracy Zerdin was a huge part of it. We got the kids involved in the community. They saw behind the scenes planning at what the chamber did and all these meetings that nobody would even think happens to make a community like this happen. And we got to let those kids see it and see what it was like, and then had speakers come in from all different walks of life and get to interact. And I know every speaker touched at least one kid with inspiring them or making them question maybe what they want to do with their lives. And so we did a lot of stuff with the community. And Zale was our speaker because he was our president to get us to convention. And he pulled some heady tricks out of his pocket. I don't know if you remember. He was sitting there. He's up on stage, and he's like, hang on, let me take a selfie with you guys. But that was so cool. It's those moments that I miss so much because like watching him and then now seeing him grow, all those kids, like, I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's so cool.
That class, I guess they're going to be juniors this year.
Yeah, it's weird.
That particular group of students. So, and you invested a lot in that. And so, but kudos to you for putting in the work and investing in those students and being willing to, I just remember like you had that tenacity about you to make sure things happen for those students, and which I thought was great and inspired me to continue to be a part of it. Let's talk about, let me see, how do I want to do this? Okay, let's talk about, because you can talk about this without talking about your current role, the importance of partners like a Tracy Zerdin, the Chamber. Like, how did you see that as far as really coming along the schools and making the educational experience better?
I think it's important for them, especially in a community like this where we are so tight-knit, to see what really happens behind the scenes and to see that no matter where you are now, like look what you could be doing. It doesn't have to be in Guthrie. It could be in Guthrie, which would be great because let's keep building up Guthrie. But there's so many opportunities for students out there, no matter what your job is, what your aspiration is. So when we can get people in the community, adults, to come back and give back into our next generation, it just like positively, it just builds them into better people that are going to one day, rule the world and the community.
No, that's good. That's good. Okay, so pandemic happens. You finish out the school year with Guthrie Public Schools. What happens that summer?
I go through a lot of emotions trying to figure out what's next. And I'm not going to cry, but it was really hard. I left Guthrie Public Schools because I had to do something that I felt like was right for my family at that time. And it was a new opportunity. It was so scary because now I'm jumping into teacher mode instead of, para and aid mode where I always had someone to lean with or lean on and a big establishment to do that with. But I left and went to teach virtually for a small Guthrie-owned charter school, which to me felt still like I was in the community and we were still, we weren't anything super, super big, but we're still in the community. So I left and had a emotional conversation with Mr. Ogle, actually, like I was crying. But it was just something that was right for us because it was just right for our family to do. And then it was scary. And then it just became a new adventure. And it's something that I didn't even know where it would go, but I love it.
Yeah. I know you didn't have the chance to be the teacher in the classroom, but you still were in the classroom, and now you've been doing virtual. How long now?
This will be my third year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You coming up on your third year?
Yes.
It'll be your third year. But what were some things that you see kind of being different in the approach of doing virtual versus in the classroom?
Like from a teacher standpoint?
From the teacher's standpoint. I know, but you were still part of the classroom. You got to observe teachers and how they interact and do those things versus virtual, which you're doing yourself.
One thing is the same is that we have as teachers, we have a roadmap to go on because we have an end goal and this is where kids need to be at the end of the year. So it's the same methodical thinking of like, how do I get my kids there? But now for me, it's how do I get my kids there without being able to physically, tap on your desk, hey, we need to do this. Let me help you right now, right here. And so it's a lot different on getting kids more involved with, because it's a lot easier to ignore an email or a phone call or a text than it is for me sitting right there next to you. You can't ignore me because I'm just going to keep talking to you until we work this out. So that's something that's been a lot different, sometimes challenging.
Oh, I would imagine very challenging when you're trying to reach somebody via email or text or anything like that versus me being able to physically tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, hi, I'm here." What have you learned? And I love that you said, "Hey, at the end of the day, we have the same mission, the same win." As teachers, you're just kind of going about how to get there differently because of the different environments which you're teaching in. Tell us about some of the things that you do if it was the perfect ideal world, right? A student responding, doing the work, getting them down to that roadmap. What are some ways that you do that as a teacher?
Parental involvement is a huge thing. I mean, we even virtually, so like we communicate with students just for hours a day, but they're at home with their parents, and so heavy communication with their parents is nice and is something that I really strive to do, having open parent teacher conferences, making myself available if texting is comfortable for you, because some parents don't want to talk, and if I get on the phone, we're going to be on the phone for a minute, so some people don't like that, but it's just making myself available and really getting parents involved in the education. And then I also try to meet students where their need is, and then with things that they like. So a current thing. So I teach English. So I don't want to teach. I'm still going to teach them classics and traditional and things that we have to do. But I also want them to have fun with reading and have fun with learning, because it can be, because reading is really fun. but it's getting to talk about things like that. So we're reading The Outsiders in 8th grade, which is standard. Everyone's really reading it. But me as a virtual teacher, I actually have the opportunity to go. There's the house where they filmed it at. I can go there and I can virtually take my class there. And if I have any students that are local, because we have some that are local, I can take them with me and we can go and we can see that. And so it can be something that's more tangible to make it more fun. So I just try to, those things, parent involvement, and then I just try to make it fun.
Yeah. No, that's good. Who's a teacher that has impacted your life? Because you said that it was your senior year that you wanted to, that you started thinking about being a teacher. Was that because of a teacher that impacted your life? And what was something that you would say, I learned from that teacher, and you're now doing it to help these kids move forward in achieving whatever the win is for them?
I have a few teachers. Those are those ones that like really touched me and have no idea that they even did. I had a middle school teacher. Her name was Miss Filippo. She's fantastic. She was kind of like Kathy Ice. Do you know who she is?
Yeah.
She was like her, but for English. And so she was wild and excited about the content. She would sing to us, and I still have it in here when I'm writing a paper. All that's down. But I didn't really want to be a teacher then. But when I'm thinking back to English, I'm like, man, I want to be like Miss Filippo. But there was a teacher named Mr. Klein. He taught social studies things, marriage and family. And then I was his teacher's assistant. It was a class that I took, the easiest class. But I just helped him do, grade papers and whatever. But he was someone who I saw go above and beyond to get to know students and build relationships with students and really care about students. And I was like, man, I can see this. I know how these kids act in other classes, but when they sit down in your class, they're attentive and they listen and they're awesome. How do you do that? And so he just really cared. He cared about his students. And so I was like, man, that'd be cool. I want to do that. And then I had another teacher named Miss Swenson, and she taught this class called Peer Insights. I took it 4 times. I took it twice with no credit because it was so awesome. I just took it and I had enough credits to graduate. But it was a class where students with developmental disabilities partnered up with general education students, and we went on field trips. We learned together. We wrote essays. We did all things in life together. And she just really showed me how important inclusion is, and again, how to just get in touch with your students. So those two were both, my senior year, both big people in my life.
Those teachers sound like they were able to have a real relationship with you, impact. How do you now take some of that, what you've seen in them, and build relationships with your students now, even though it's virtual? Like, what does that look like for you?
That's hard, but I really try. I try, like, I'm asking lots of questions. What interests you? I try to be silly. No one really laughs at my jokes, even when I think they're funny. I don't know if they're nervous or whatever, but I try to communicate with them at whatever level they're comfortable with. So if it's Zooming, if it's texting, like with their parents involved, obviously, or again, phone calls, like with their parents involved, or emailing back and forth with the student. But I try to find those moments to connect with. And when I'm like, oh, I know you like soccer, I'm going to learn more about soccer so that I can talk to you about it. And I have something that I can relate to with you.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So let's go back to Guthrie. Mm-hmm. Like, tell me, like, some of the things that you find yourself telling other people about Guthrie that may not live here.
I wish my parents would move here, so I always tell them how great it is. But it's just how really community minded it really, really is. And you don't really know it till you get in here. It's almost like when you cross in, there's like a bubble. Yeah. And like you cross in the bubble, and it's just like a different feeling when you get here, because you feel like there's not competition for things, and it's everyone really typically wants the best for the community. So I just say it's fun. It feels like safe and inviting, and there's always something going on. It feels like there's always something going on.
Talking about things always going on, do you remember your first 89ers experience when you came here?
Yes.
Like, was that something like you was like, okay, this is different?
Well, we have something similar where I'm from. It's called the Raspberry Festival because raspberries are big in Hopkins, where I'm from. But, again, it was hot. But I had never seen so many like horses and animals. Like we didn't really, it was always cars, but there's animals there. And so I thought that was really cool. And a lot of candy if you sit in the right spot and they're not all done throwing it. But those were animals and lots of candy.
Do y'all have talking about spots, do y'all have a spot as a family whenever you show up for a parade? Like, this is our spot. Is there a spot on the trail that y'all have?
Well, we used to sit with my cousin she doesn't live here anymore. She's coming back. We're hoping she comes back. We used to sit with her in-laws, and they kind of sit by the Territorial Museum.
Okay.
Then for homecoming, when I worked at the junior high, I would sit right there. But Jason is usually in the parade, so we kind of go all over the place. But now that I have littles, we sit by the police department, so we're close to a potty.
Oh, gotcha. So y'all can run into the restroom right there by City Hall. Yeah. Mom, we don't have a mic on you, but I think people can hear you. Do you have a spot that you tend to go to over the years for 89ers on the parade trail?
We used to always go up there, right there at Second, you know what the publishing company is? The old publishing company?
Yes, on Second and Harrison.
Block over, that next corner is where we used to always stand with our grandparents, with grandmother.
Oh, okay. You going way.
I always go there, but since you moved over here, since I moved back to Guthrie, this corner here and then the next corner, two corners down.
Oh yeah, Oklahoma. Oklahoma and Oak.
That next one is Oklahoma, yeah.
Yeah.
Right there at that church.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Everybody typically, which is funny, like people have their spots. I remember when Bernadette and I, when we first got married, her spot was over by the State Capitol Publishing Museum where the, help me, where you get the icy. What do you got? Is it Icy's?
Avalanche. Oh, okay. It's no.
Yeah, so we would always have to go like that's what because you just knew everybody I guess that you connected to would be right there, which is yes, yeah, which is fun. It's fun. Now let's talk about Red Brick Nights. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Did y'all have anything like that in Minnesota?
Not like this, and we totally could have because we have the same kind of space and everything, but again, it's just the community doesn't come together like it does here, and we don't have as many people who really care about right here where we're all living. I love it. I think it's great. Obviously, my favorite part is the kids area because then my kids get to bounce and get all their energy out, and it's great, and they love it. And so that's my favorite part because then they're worn out and they go home and they sleep great.
I think that's what every parent's. Yeah, I'm curious to see what Red Brick Nights would look like without a kids area. Like I'm like, man, I think the parents come for the kids. Like bring their kids over there, bounce, get them all worn out, get their face painted, and then let's go home.
And balloon animals.
Yeah, and getting those things and then kind of going home. So, yeah. What is Choose Guthrie? So we got the Choose Guthrie signs around town. Like, what does that mean to you, Choose Guthrie?
That's kind of like a deep question, I feel like. I don't know. I mean, I really chose Guthrie because I moved across the country. So for me, I chose Guthrie, and it means like family because I actually chose. I didn't grow up here. I don't have to be here, but I chose to come here because it's just so great.
You know what? I think that's the first time I ever heard somebody answer it that way. She's like, I know y'all around here acting like y'all choose. I really chose Guthrie. I came from Minnesota. Yeah. That is too funny. That's a good point, though. You did choose us. It's kind of like people say, what is it like a friend? You get to choose, choose. Your family, you don't. So it's a little bit different. Like, I get to choose to be friends with you. This is a little bit deeper than somebody that I have to. Like they're my family.
Yeah, like you're related to, yeah.
That's good. Well, Rosie, thank you for hanging out with me today for another episode of the GuthrieAmerica Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you all for hitting that play button for another episode of the GuthrieAmerica Podcast. I deeply appreciate you all. Remember, leave us a review. Drop comments if you're following us on Instagram and Facebook and all of that. Let's make sure that we're connected. Spread the word that we are on a mission. we are on a mission to make sure that every story is told of the people who are doing life in our community and people who are from. Thank you very much. See ya. Bye.